I don't know what to think of this. I know I used to like Jim Jordan before I woke up, but why? Why?
The juice in the numbers.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
You talked all about your opening statement about the number of domestic terrorism threats. We've had multiple whistleblowers come to our office and tell us that they're being pressured to categorize cases as domestic terrorist threats that aren't. And I'm just wondering, because it was the opening of your statement, most of your statement, you talked about this new office. You feel, are you juicing the numbers?
I'm not aware of the
Just read your scripts. Fool the masses.
Is that the intelligence community has assessed that the threat we face from domestic violence extremism is elevated, and that's consistent with what I said.
Who is Timothy T-Bolt?
Timothy T-Bolt.
I'm sorry, I don't know that name.
I do know.
Mr. Grassley does. Mr. Grassley cited.
Yeah, Mr. Grassley.
His 5 minutes of questioning. Mr. T-Bolt's a guy who suppressed information that was verified.
I lived in Iowa.
In 2020.
Long time.
You know who this individual is?
I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
You know what's also interesting about this individual? He's the guy that the whistleblowers told us is pressuring them to recategorize the cases as domestic terrorism cases.
You just keep talking with your hands and give yourself away.
I do not.
Well, I guess that maybe stands to reason. Find that interesting. How many more parents has the Department of Justice investigated?
The Justice Department and the FBI investigate individuals who commit acts of violence or threats of
I'm
violence.
talking relative to the school board issue. How many more parents have you investigated? We know of 20 some, over 2 dozen, because again, we've had other whistleblowers come forward and tell us about that. I mean, the number.
Really? Who are they?
Well-worn trail of FBI agents coming as whistleblowers to our office because so many things that they're concerned about going on with the Justice Department. So we know of over 2 dozen.
So many. So many false flag stories to make up.
We don't investigate anyone based on their status as a parent or not.
Oh, you don't?
Investigate and prosecute.
You investigate it based on the threat tag, EDU officials, the designation. How many more than the 20-some we know about already? How many more have been investigated because they have that threat tag associated with their name?
I don't believe that anyone's been investigated because they have a threat tag, and I can't speak to
How else
that.
you can identify them? That was the FBI memo. Threat tag on their name, EDU officials, and they've been investigated. And again, we know of over 2 dozen of them.
I don't have specific information about that.
I just kind of want to know why this screen is so fuzzy.
On October 4th, 2021, the National Security Division was mentioned on this press release that went out that day. Here's what the press release
Yeah,
said.
you point that finger up to your...
Will launch a series of additional efforts to
Ooh.
include the creation of a task force. Has that task force been created?
Task
I believe
force.
that it has, yes.
You believe or hasn't?
I believe that it has, yes.
Who's on it?
A number of components across the Justice
Who's on the
Department.
task force?
A number of components are represented on the task force, from the criminal division to the civil division.
Well, components don't serve on task force. People do. Who are the people on the task force?
Yeah.
A number of representatives of those components serve on the task force.
Do you serve on it?
I am not a member of the task force. I've not been to any meetings. There are a number of representatives across the department who form that task force.
Who from the NSD is on the task force?
I don't have any information about who particularly is on the task force from my
This was a big press release. This was the biggest story in the news last fall, and the National Security Division is one of the components on the task force. And you've never been to a task force meeting, and you don't know who your
Biggest
division
thing on
is.
the news.
Are you guys embarrassed about
Fake freaking news.
what's going after moms' heads?
Just like
embarrassing.
you.
The National School Board Association
Fake.
pulled back their letter. They said they apologized for it. They regret that they did. A bunch of states have pulled out of the organization. I'm just wondering if that's the same attitude you guys now have. Frankly, that'd be good if you did.
I think we take very seriously that anyone who serves in civic life deserves to be safe. Anyone who serves on a school board, on a city council,
Oh
any
my
position
God.
of public trust, they should not be the subject of threats of violence or violence. And that's the point of this effort. Is to
Then
work with
quit bringing
Parents
up
should be
violence.
safe that they can speak their mind about their kids' education and not be harassed for doing so. You know, we've sent you 103 letters, 584 specific requests over the last
584 to
Have
be
you collected
exact.
any of the information we've asked for? Have you collected that information?
I'm aware that there have been requests. I don't know the status of the response to those requests. I'd certainly willing to take
We
that
know
back
the
to our
status of the
office.
response. They're basically giving us the finger and said we're not gonna give you any. We got two letters with like a half a paragraph on each letter. I just want to know if you've actually collected the information. We know you're not going to give it to us because we've seen that over the last.
You got it right in front of your freaking face. You're reading it.
I'm I'm not sure what, sir, I'm not sure what you mean by collective.
584 specific requests about correspondence, email.
Yeah, you just keep doing your devil worship sign language, you 666.
Asking, have you even started to collect it?
I'm certainly willing to take that question back to our Office of Legislation.
Well, I think it's interesting you don't know the answer to it, so it tells me you probably haven't.
Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rosenstein, why are you keeping information from Congress?
Congressman, I am not keeping any information from Congress.
Look at this lying
Mr. Rosenstein,
freaking
think the House of
fools.
Representatives is going to say something different.
I don't agree.
The
with you.
diamonds on your tie.
What they're going to say, and if they do, they'll
I
be mistaken.
disagree, but I think in a few minutes the House of Representatives is going to go on record saying you haven't complied with requests from a separate and equal branch of government, that you haven't complied with subpoenas.
With your little water bottle.
Together. I think that's what's going to happen in a few. And that's not Jim Jordan. I think that's the House.
You're not Jim Jordan. You're a paid actor.
And I want to know why you won't give us what we've asked for.
Sir, I certainly hope that your colleagues are not under that impression.
Why don't you give us what we asked for?
It is accurate. We have caught you hiding
Mr. Chairman,
information,
can we
Mr.
allow the witness to
Rosenstein.
answer? Mr. Chairman, point of order. We can go to Mr. Jordan's press conference and listen to him, but we came here to hear from the witness.
The time belongs to the gentleman.
Mr. Rosenstein,
Can we allow him to answer?
we have
Oh
caught
my
you
God.
hiding information.
Allow him to answer.
He will be permitted to answer.
Rosenstein.
Mr. Jordan
Won't even show his
has
face.
Mr. Rosenstein.
to answer.
Why won't you show his
The
face?
gentleman's out of order. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Mr. Rose, let me make this one, but then I'll let
Yes,
you
Mr.
answer.
Jordan, I'd like to
Let's
answer
make this
your
one point
question, sir.
where we've
Can I
caught you
answer
hiding
your
information,
question,
then you
sir?
can answer. Why did you hide the fact that Peter Strzok and Judge Contreras...
Who's that behind
Why did you
him?
redact that in the documents you gave to us?
Yeah,
Judge Contreras kind of
you
important,
just
finds a court judge.
what's
More
going on with
importantly,
this video?
Just as importantly, the judge that heard Mike Flynn's case. Why'd you try to hide that from him?
Huh?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate
What's going on?
you giving me the opportunity to respond. I've heard you make those sort of allegations.
Now we can't see their eyes?
I got it
And
right here.
Why not?
Chairman, he should be given
Right
the
here.
opportunity. Now, Mr. Jordan, I am
Is that a
Deputy
boy?
Attorney General of the United States.
Who is that character in
I'm not
that?
the person doing the redacting. I'm
Behind
responsible for
Rosenstein.
responding to your concerns as I have.
With
I'm
the
a team
sideburns.
you, sir. It's just a fraction of the team that's doing this work, and whenever you brought issues to my attention, I have taken appropriate steps to remedy them. So your statement that I'm personally keeping information from you, trying to conceal information,
You're the boss, Mr. Rosenstein.
that's correct.
Yeah.
My job is to make sure that we respond.
Why don't we
to
see their
certain steps.
faces?
Now, I've appointed Mr. Lausch, who is managing that production. My
The hell's going on
understanding
here,
is
devil?
very well, sir. So I appreciate your concerns.
Again, I think the House of Representatives...
Why can't we see their
Your
eyes?
use of this to attack me
Why
personally.
did you... it's not wrong.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. May the witness be permitted to answer the question?
It's not personal.
The gentleman will suspend. The witness is going to have an opportunity to say whatever he wants at the end of Mr. Jordan's 5 minutes. Until the
It is
end
not
of those
personal.
5 minutes, they're his time.
I appreciate your service. It's not personal. If we just want the information. Why did you tell Peter Strzok not to answer our questions
Oh,
yesterday?
Peter
When I asked,
Strzok.
Peter Strzok
Ugh.
if he ever communicated with Glenn Simpson, he gave us the answer he gave us dozens of times. On advice of FBI counsel, I can't answer that question. Why couldn't he answer that question?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate
Your
sincere
butt hurt?
concerns, but I didn't give Peter Strzok any instructions. If there was some problem with the instructions he had, I'll be happy to
Not
look
what,
into it.
not what his
You have
FBI
to
lawyer
understand,
said.
Mr. Jordan, when you find some
Why
problem
are you
with
not
production,
showing their eyes?
It doesn't mean that I'm personally trying to conceal something from you. It means we're running an organization that's trying to follow the rules, and we're going to
So what was interesting, when I asked him if he'd ever talked to Bruce Orr, he said he had. He said he had 3 times in 2016 and 2017. Then I asked him, have you ever talked to Nellie Orr? And he said, no, I haven't. I said, well, why can you answer that question? Because Nellie Orr worked for Glenn Simpson, worked for Fusion. He could answer that question, but he couldn't answer because FBI counsel told him he couldn't. He couldn't answer the question whether he'd ever communicated with Glenn Simpson, a journalist. Why couldn't he answer that question?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate you saying it isn't personal. Sometimes it feels that way. How do I know, sir? I mean, you interviewed Mr. Strzok. I didn't.
Who is that
So it
behind
works
there?
For you. Doesn't work for us.
There are 115,000 people who work for me, sir.
Mr. Rosenstein, did you threaten staffers on the House Intelligence Committee? Media reports indicate you did.
Media reports are mistaken.
Sometimes. This
Yeah,
is what they said.
all the
African
time.
nation's #1 law enforcement officer threatened to subpoena your calls and emails is downright chilling. Did you threaten to subpoena their calls and emails?
No, sir, and there's no way to subpoena phone calls.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. I'm reading what the press said. I'm reading what the
I
press
would
said.
suggest that you not rely on what the press says, sir.
Well, I didn't ask if there's no way to do it. I asked if you said it.
I said what?
What I just read you.
No, I did not.
Well, now who are we supposed to believe?
Why are
Staff
you
members who
reading?
we've worked with, who've never misled us, or you guys, who we've caught hiding information from us, who tell a witness not to answer our questions? Who are we supposed to believe?
Thank you for making clear it's not personal, Mr. Jordan.
Well, I'm saying the Department of
Believe me
Justice.
because I'm telling the truth and I'm under oath.
Anything
Put somebody
happens
else
to
under
me,
oath,
you
they
know
have
these
something
devil
I know these
worshippers
staff
came
members
for me.